Okay, so the Haftarah, Vayeira, he appeared, things concealed. This is the story of Elisha, the prophet. So we're in 2 Kings 4, 1 through 37, the entire chapter. So it's the story of Elisha the prophet and a couple of encounters that teach us a really deep lesson. There is so much in this. I probably could have studied for a month on a lot of it. And I know there's a ton of hidden things I'd like to search out more, but this is what I'm going to touch on today. But anyway, very deep lesson of trust, faith, and obedience concealed. So the first story, and most of us are probably pretty familiar with this passage, but is of the widow and the oil. So there was a widow of the disciples of the prophets who was left destitute and was in fear of her sons being sold into slavery to pay her debt. The sages say she was the widow of Obadiah. And they have a reason for saying that because she quoted that she feared God and he also feared God. So I don't know if it's true or not, but that's kind of the tradition anyway. But that he had also risked his life and incurred debt housing many of the prophets, the students, the disciples. And so he died and she was left destitute. And of course, we know in those days, if there's a debt to be paid, somebody goes into slavery for that debt to be paid. And the creditors were already coming. So instead of taking matters into her own hands, and we've seen that a lot in the Word, right? Women who take the matter into their own hands, she could have. There's ways to earn money. She could have done that. She didn't. She went. She didn't try to figure it out on her own. She knew what to do to pay the debt. She sought out the man of God, the prophet Elisha. Elisha represented God. He was an intermediary in that time. He was the authority over her as the head there, as her husband had been a disciple and feared God. So Elisha inquires of her what he can do. What is it that you need? What do you have in your house? And then she tells him, I only have one vessel of oil. So he tells her, send your sons to the neighbors, borrow all the empty vessels you can. And I'll tell you right there, that one can really strike at you. Get the empty vessels. We know there's something. That's not what I'm getting at on this either. But I know there's something really good there. He said, don't be sparing. Get a whole bunch. Get them all. Get as much as you can. The next instruction is very important. He says, then go in and shut the door behind you and behind your children. Then pour into all these vessels and remove each full one. So she left him and she shut the door behind her and her children. So what they were about to do would be concealed from everybody around them, from the rest of that community. It was a very specific instruction from God. So they brought the vessels and they poured until the last was full. And she asked for more, and her son told her, there is no more. So she came and told the man of God, and he said, take these vessels and sell the oil and pay the debt, and you and your sons will live on the remainder. That's such a good God, isn't he? He not only meets her need, but then, for the debt, but then also enough for them to live on. And provided, she had no idea when he said, go in, get these vessels, shut the door. She didn't know what was going to come of it. She had no idea what God was going to do. But what did she do? She trusted. She obeyed the instruction of the authority. And then look what God did. So he provided and provided for their future as well. It took a lot of trust in her to shut that door. But shutting that door was very significant because the kingdom of God is very secret. And Elisha understood the ways in which God works. The miracle was between the widow and her sons and God. It was very private, very personal. And he was going to take care of her and show her. That's what I got out of it. He's going to teach her and show her, I'm your source. I'm the one. I'm making this instruction. I'm making this promise, and it's between us. And then the whole community is going to get to see what happened. So it was to be concealed so as to protect it from mockers, naysayers, critics, doubters, right? Have you ever had that happen where God's given you a promise? He's told you he's going to do something, and you might run to tell somebody because you're excited, and then what do they say? Often we see it shot down, right? From someone who it's not their promise, it's not their concern, and they shoot it down because they don't get it. God didn't speak it to their hearts. So he wants you to protect what he gives you. Protect those things for his timing, for his right timing. So she didn't know at each step, I covered that, what he was going to do, what that instruction would be, but he's so good. So when we fear him, that was the point there. When we fear him, like she said, that he not only provides for the immediate, but he takes care of the future as well. So the next story is the Shunammite woman. The next encounter is with a woman of the opposite means. She's wealthy. She's provided for. She's got everything. She had all she could want, but she didn't have any children. She was from Shunem. Shunem is a city in the Jezreel Valley at the base of the hill of Moreh. A little bit later, I have a little map that shows you what kind of where it's located. But one day, Elisha traveled to Shunem, and this prominent woman offered him a meal. So whenever he would pass by there, he would go there for a meal. So then she says to her husband, let's get him a room. Let's make a room for him, a place, so that when he passes by, he has a place to stay. So they made a room with walls, put there a bed, a table, a chair, a lamp, making him comfortable, everything he could want as a passerby when he's going through. So on his next trip, he went up to the attic and he lay there. So he calls his servant Gehazi and asks him to summon the woman. He summoned her and she stood before him. And he said to him, I want you to notice here too, he doesn't go and tell her himself. He uses the servant to speak his words. That's significant as well. He says, say now to her, see, you've taken all this trouble for us. What is to be done for you? You want me to speak to the king? You want me to have a word on, some intercession on behalf of anybody, a commander of the army? She's like, I dwell among my own people. So I thought, well, what does that mean? So I looked it up. I dwell peaceably among my own people, and I don't have any need of intercession from the king, with the king or anyone else, because we kind of dwell in peace here together. She doesn't interfere in other things, I guess, also is what she's saying. So Elisha then says, what can be done for her? And Gehazi replied, she has no child, and her husband is old. So he said, call her. So now, when he had called her, she stood in the doorway. Then Elisha speaks to her. Then he gives the promise from God. About this time next year, you shall embrace a son. But she says, no, my Lord, man of God, don't lie to your maidservant. It kind of indicates she had been longing for one, right? She probably had not been able to conceive or to bear a son. And so she was like, please don't lie to me. Have we ever said that to God? No, don't give me something that's not going to happen, please. But indeed, she conceived, bore a son at that season the next year, as Elisha had spoken to her. So after the son has grown, he goes out to his father, to the reapers. Again, something there, right? So he's out in the field and they're reaping. There's something deep there too. These are the areas I want to look into later when I have more time. But the kid cries out, my head, my head. The boy's father tells the attendant to carry him to his mother. He does. She holds him in her lap until noon. Significant, right? Noon, a prayer time of day for prayer. And then he dies. She went up, laid him on the bed of the man of God, and then did what? Shut the door behind on him and left. She concealed this death, this thing that came that was against, right? Against that promise of God. She wasn't going to go out and shout it out. She kept her own counsel on that. Then she called to her husband and said, send me one of the servants and one of the donkeys, and that I may quickly go to the man of God and come back again. Why go to him today? He said, it's not the new moon or the Sabbath. She said, all is well. She saddled the donkey, said to her servant, lead on, don't slow down for me unless I tell you. You know, clearly, all wasn't well, was it? Her son was dead. Yet, she was still clinging to that hope, that promise, that trust. She was trusting. She says, lead on, don't slow down for me unless I tell you. It had a distance to go, and she wanted to get to him as fast as she could. So she set out. It was a journey of about 33 miles round trip, probably more than a day by donkey, with the servant leading on foot, going through, traversing the valley, and then climbing Mount Carmel, which is no simple task, I'm sure, in that day. They didn't have roads and highways like they do now, and came to the man of God at Mount Carmel. When he saw her in the distance, the man of God said to his servant Gehazi, look, there's the Shunammite. Run to meet her and ask her, are you all right? Is your husband all right? Is your child all right? To the servant, she says, it is well. She doesn't tell him what's going on. She still is concealing the thing, the matter. Here's the map. You can see Mount Carmel and Shunem. So you see, she had a little bit of a journey there through that valley. If you've been on Mount Carmel, if you've had the joy of looking over that valley and seeing from that observation area, you see the whole Jezreel Valley. You see from border to border, from the sea to the eastern border. You see quite a ways north and south. And so it's quite a location, but it's where the prophets hung out, right? It's where he called down the prophets of Baal from there. So it was the place she knew that was where to go, and she would find the man of God. Oh, there's another map too. Kind of gives you a little of the terrain that they went across. So when she reached the man of God at the mountain, she took hold of his feet. Man, this part just broke me every time I read this. She grabbed his feet. Gehazi came over to push her away, but the man of God said, leave her alone. She's in bitter distress, but the Lord has hidden it from me and has not told me why. Did I ask you for a son, my Lord? She said. Didn't I tell you, don't raise my hopes? Elisha said to Gehazi, tuck your cloak into your belt. Take my staff in your hand and run. Don't greet anyone. Same instruction that she gave her servant. Don't greet anyone you meet, and if anyone greets you, don't answer. Lay my staff on the boy's face. But the child's mother said, as surely as the Lord lives and as you live, I will not leave you. She's saying this to Elisha. So he got up and he followed her. To me, I don't know if you thought of it, but immediately it made me think of Moses. Moses, when he was discussing with Yahweh in Exodus 33 about who's going to accompany them on their journey to the promised land, right? There was a promise, and he said, go. And Moses says, if your presence does not go with us, don't bring us up from here. I'm not going without you. The man of God in this case was the source of the promise, and he was the one she had to contend with. Keep that in mind. When God gives you a promise, he's the one. And sometimes we have to contend with him. These people were touching the very hidden things of Yahweh. The hidden secrets of Yahweh are the secrets of his kingdom, and they're at his discretion to reveal. They are concealed. So even in this week's portion, we see that in Genesis 18:17, in that passage there, that there were 3 visitors to Abraham. And they made promises. Yahweh was one of them. He made a promise to him. And as Abraham was escorting them out, and they were gazing towards Sodom, and Yahweh said, "Shall I conceal from Abraham what I do now?" So he's discussing with the other two messengers. "Now that Abraham is surely to become a great mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall bless themselves by him." So Yahweh reveals his plan to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah, which causes Abraham what? To contend, to wrestle with him for his nephew Lot. God decided, it was his timing. He said, okay, I'm not going to conceal it from him. Now that I know he's trustworthy, he's the one I can reveal it to. Yeah. Gehazi went on ahead, now we're back to our story, and laid the staff on the boy's face, but there was no sound or response. So Gehazi went back to meet Elisha and told him, the boy has not awakened. When Elisha reached the house, there was the boy lying dead on his couch. He went in, shut the door on the two of them, again, concealing what was about to take place, and prayed to the Lord. Even shut him away from, what I understand of it, the mom. She was not in there. This was Elisha and his servant. Then he got on the bed, lay on the boy, mouth to mouth, eyes to eyes, hands to hands. As he stretched himself out on him, the boy's body grew warm. Elisha turned away and walked back and forth in the room, and then got on the bed and stretched out on him once more. The boy sneezed 7 times and opened his eyes. Elisha summoned Gehazi and said, "Call the Shunammite." And he did. When she came, he said, "Take your son." She came in, fell at his feet, and bowed to the ground. Then she took her son and went out. Those are just 2 really encouraging and very beautiful stories about God's promises and how he works and the things that he will do for those he loves. But the promises that he gives to us are often to be concealed so that he can show us his glory and build our faith, and then to be shared with others. It means having wisdom, the wisdom to know when to keep our mouths shut, when to open it. If God gives you something, have wisdom about it and discernment of when to open and when to keep shut. He will show his glory and through it build our faith. So the faith of that Shunammite woman was that Elisha gave her the promise, and she was going to contend with him for her son's life. The matter was between them. And that's what I think is important that we understand. We can contend with God. If he speaks something to our spirits about what he's going to do, and then something causes us to have fear or doubt, or someone else causes us to have fear or doubt, we can contend with him. We go to him. He's the one we do our struggle with. Sometimes we have to contend or wrestle with him. He may give us a promise. There we go. Shut the door and keep it concealed. He may tell us to do that. And if he does, then obey it until such a time as he is ready to reveal or bring it to pass. A true disciple will seek him out, right? Isn't that what these women did? They sought out the man of God. They sought out his representative. So to them, that was God. They were going to God because they were going to the man who was in that position of authority. They sought him out. Go to the source. Matthew 6:33, seek ye first the kingdom of God. Don't let it be our last resort. Let it be our first. We will trust in him. Proverbs 3:5-6. Trust in Yahweh with all your heart. And don't lean on our own understanding. Don't try and figure it out yourself. Think of the horrible things that first woman could have done in order to pay the debt, and realize it wasn't a good option, because that's what many would have done in those days and in that time. Listen. I found out an interesting thing here when I looked up the definition, English definition of listen. It means exactly Shema. It means hear and heed, obey the instruction. We always thought it just meant hear, listen, tune in, but it also means to obey. Don't we say that when we talk to our children? You're not listening to me. You didn't listen and do, when we're trying to really say you didn't obey me, but we understand it, and that's important. Listen and obey the instruction. It's the Lord your God you must follow, and him you must revere. Keep his commands and obey him. Serve him and hold fast to him. Deuteronomy 13:4. And then reap the reward and rejoice in his provision and his goodness to us. Those are the steps. So that's all. Thank you. God bless you.